Well, good morning and welcome to this video. Let's move this out a little bit. I'm just in the park here in Pomona today making this video whilst I'm waiting for other things in the orchestration of things to come about. I thought I'd try and make this video, and I say try because this video will come across as a contradiction of terms. And as all things are, I guess, because, the bottom line is I'm not here making a video at all. But I constantly get people commenting in my videos saying, hey dude, you need to have an experience of the truth and then you'll understand what's what, and these are obviously people who've only ever watched one of my videos or a part of a video or something like that perhaps. Or in the dualistic sense, haven't yet realized what's going on. So, and I have to put my finger on my nose there, but in that sense, it comes to me to make this declaration by form of this video of the nature of things. And I have addressed this before in other videos talking about Eastern traditions of spirituality and A Course in Miracles, which is specifically channeled for the Western mind, and but I don't think I've ever made a video specifically about it. And one of these things, and it has to do with transcendence and transformation. So transcendence being the use of spiritual concepts to spiritually bypass doing the actual work of the transformative process, and transformation obviously being the application of the principles to do the work, not bypassing. So in the East, and I'll use Ramana Maharshi as a great example, and I don't want all the Maharshi fans to jump up and down at me for this, but I'm going to use the Ramana Maharshi version of spirituality that you get in the West, right? So, I could use Gandhi, I could use anybody, I could use any Eastern sort of teacher, really, Baba Noli, who is was one of my favourites, and Chitra, one of Chitra's favourites too. Of course, oh my God, Aurobindo and all of those sort of guys. But I'm trying to think who the guy was that did TM, the Maharishi, who taught transcendental meditation, which in part is kind of one of the key responsible references for what I'm trying to put out here. But in the West, so because of the internet and everything, in the West, fundamentally you'll get a lot of memes, and you'll get a lot of, I've seen things attributed to Buddha, I've seen memes attributed to Gautama Buddha that you know that he never said these things, and some of them are tongue-in-cheek and some of them are probably misinterpreted and all of this sort of stuff. But you can't take your spiritual education seriously if you're still looking at a meme on Facebook and deciding that that's how things are, no matter who seems to have been attributed to it, And I'm going to use Maharshi because I have seen several Maharshi memes that really don't do the entirety of his teachings any justice. You get a little snippet of this glued together with a little snippet of something else, and then Ramana Maharshi underneath, and it's like, that makes it sound like, the most flippant kind of, there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to spirituality. And whilst the obvious, right, this is obvious, whilst the obvious nature of of the bottom line of all spirituality is that I'm not here now making this video. I'm actually in eternity dreaming of myself making a video for others outside of myself who don't exist, right? Part of, which is preposterous, I understand that, part of the process is to declare yourself, right? Now, Jesus says in the Course, you're teaching and learning all the time. The only consideration that you may have with regards to that is what it is that you want to teach. You're either teaching from a fearful premise or from a loving premise, right? Now, in the idea of teaching from a loving premise, there is a transition, because the human being is born, let's say, and I know you're not really born into the world at all, but the human being finds itself in the world, being born to parents, etc., going through this whole narrative of education that is rooted in the original error, okay, rooted in the original sin, if you want to call it that, but without the evil connotations. So sin being an Aramaic word, and I'm getting off track there. I haven't finished my coffee. So you find yourself with this dualistic thought system. You're taught that this is better than that, and this is mine and that's yours, right? Duality, it's the yin-yang thought system. And that's what you're trying to get out of, that yin-yang thought system. That's what you're trying to dump, right? But you can't just dump it, because intrinsically it has its little spiderweb roots throughout the synapse process of your brain, throughout the references that you have in your mind that have been built up over years and years perhaps, or lifetimes and lifetimes perhaps, that not only validate the thought system itself, but validate your defense mechanisms, attack and defense mechanisms, that perpetuate the illusion of the idea that you are the body in a world, and those things are valid for you, those points of view are valid for you, the yin-yang, right? And the reason that you don't really raise it to doubt is because it hardly ever does it come in, because ego speaks first and is always the first to block anything useful out. Hardly ever does it come in that there might be another way to see things. There might be another way to use your mind, a better way to think about things. And ultimately that will transpire to not really thinking about things. But there are steps, right? So it's called healing, and it's called a process of healing. So we don't just want to find, let's say, a Ramana Maharshi meme that says, I remember one, it's a question and answers meme, and it says, question, and then addressing Ramana, you know, and says, teacher, how do we deal with the thoughts of others? And the answer was simply that there are no others, right? Now, if you were to, in the ignorance, let's say, of your maturing mind or awakening mind, if you were to just look at that meme, you could quite easily, because the ego loves to form postures of conceptual association on things as a way to better defend itself against truth. If you were to look at that meme, you'd be like, oh, there's no others, and you would simply walk around convinced there are no others, or telling yourself there are no others. And when somebody came to you and said something that maybe triggered you or upset you, or something happened in your life, etc., from at the hands of somebody else, let's say, you'd simply say there were no others, right? There is no others, it's just a dream, And I know people that do that, but that doesn't get you out of the dream. It doesn't awaken your mind. All it does is puts you in this kind of transcendental astral state where for the rest of your life, you're going to be walking around telling yourself that there are no others. Whereas transformation, on the other hand, recognizes that there are no others, and then uses that recognition to double back on itself, right? Because you wouldn't have to tell yourself there were no others unless you were still believing in others, right? It's like you wouldn't have to ask yourself if you were happy if you were actually happy. It wouldn't even enter your mind. which means that there is still denial, there is still the old yin-yang thought system operating in you somewhere, and just to fob it off with the idea that there are no others doesn't do you any good. So you have to do the work, which is why Jesus didn't just give us a Course in Miracles with a text that repeatedly says there are no others, even though essentially that's what it does say. He also added a workbook. Right, now the workbook is my thoughts don't mean anything, nothing I see means anything in the beginning, etc. Right, and then it says, I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. Okay, and you're encouraged throughout the workbook and the text, throughout the whole thing, to look again with the Holy Spirit, who will heal your mind of false perception and allow your natural or true perception or singular perception to come through again, which is your natural means of communication. So essentially the Holy Spirit's doing the work. And in the same way as there are no others, that Maharshi meme, I've had people read A Course in Miracles and they read the little bit that says, oh, I need do nothing. And they stop at that, I need do nothing. And it's like, well, yeah, you don't need to do anything. You need do nothing. You let the Holy Spirit do it, right? You yourself, of yourself, you can do nothing, right? It's funny stuff. So the process of doing the work then is taking a deep dive into the old thought system, looking at it in the recognition that there are no others, it's just a dream, I need do nothing, all of these sort of platitudes that are presented in spiritual work, and actually doing the work. And the work is very simple. It's being still, right? Now, in that being still, it encompasses a lot of premises that are combined, I guess, or synchronistic to each other, that help loosen the fabric of false belief from the mind. Okay, and forgiveness is one of those. Forgiveness of self for asking the other person to play that part for you, essentially, or asking that situation to show up. Because forgiveness, as used as the world sees it, is I will forgive you because I'm the better of the two of us, even though you did something wrong to me, blah, blah, blah. That's not really forgiveness, right? That's still seeing the cause of your suffering, the cause of your pain outside of yourself, rather than being able to take total responsibility for it as the dreamer of your dream. And you have to take responsibility because I'm accepting at-one-ment or atonement for myself in the situation in which I find myself confronted by whatever it is, A, B, C. So doing the work is recognizing, firstly, that I have given reality to illusion, that I've blamed somebody outside of myself or made someone or something outside of myself the cause of my upsets, rather than realizing that I have invited that person into my dream, or I have manifested that person into my dream to play that part. Now, the script for denial is written prior to coming into the world to have the experience. So you find yourself seemingly, when you come here, you don't know what anything's about, you don't know why everyone says things and does things, and it's all a bit kind of like weird, and it takes you a long time, and hopefully by the time you're 30 years old, you've reached some sort of level of maturity with it all, and you can meet the world on equal terms, which then gives you the rest of your life to wonder why the hell you even bother doing that. That's if you haven't tried to commit suicide by then. And I'm laughing because I've tried to commit suicide before. In the dream, of course. So the process of healing then is dealing with that old thought system, right? Your job, your purpose is to return your mind to God as it was given to you. All right, that's in a nutshell. Pure, clear, free of judgment, no grievances, nothing, just an open, beautiful, wonderful, what's that movie, Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or something, just perfect, just a perfect mind. Jesus says in the Course, you are perfect and it's your job to become perfect, right? But you're not perfect now, right? You are perfect in eternity, but you don't believe in your perfection here in the world. And I've had people say to me, oh, nobody is perfect, right? It's like, well, in a sense, that's true, and it's not both true and not true. You're perfect in reality, but your job here is to heal your mind to a singular sense of self rather than this flip-flop and yin-yang back and forwards, which is perfect in its own structure, but for what it represents, but that doesn't bring you any happiness, right? So you find yourself running away from one thing and chasing another thing continually. But as you go through the healing process, you learn that all things are perfect. Whatever comes to you, that's perfect. I had to learn it that way. It had to show up that way because that's what I asked for. That's what I put in the storyline of my transformative process, or in my human experience story before I came here, right? And you're probably like me, you've sat down and wondered, I wonder what other stupid stuff I've bloody written into my storyline before I came here to have it all play out in the theatre of dreams. And you don't really know. And you have no other way to meet it other than by defenselessness or defense, right? So defense always implies attack and defense, because you have to perceive yourself as being attacked to want to defend yourself. And whilst at the same time you recognize that's the original narrative, you're now taking on board new premises of defenselessness. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, so that when you meet things and people and situations coming, because you're no longer projecting onto that situation a sense of needing to defend yourself, those characters and situations still show up, but the trigger and the relationship narrative has changed in your mind as the author of it, as the dreamer of your dream, and it plays out differently. Now, if it doesn't play out differently and you still find yourself in terror and in everything else, it's because somewhere you're not being authentic or not being real or not being honest about your defenselessness. And quite often I've had, and also for my own self, I've seen it, quite often I've had people say to me, oh, this and this, but I didn't really have, I was ready to run, or I was ready with plan B. That's not defenselessness. You have to be like a deer in the spotlights, a deer in the headlights. You have to have nowhere to run, like it's totally, this is it, And I've had to have those moments. In my transformation, I had to have those moments, and they always turned out, luckily, they always turned out different from how I thought they would, and they always turned out beautifully. It always turned out just miraculously. So the work has to be done. Right? We have 365 lessons. Now, the caveat to all of that, of course, is you don't need those lessons, right? If you could accept your sinlessness now, you would lay aside the body, I guess, and have a complete spiritual experience of the divinity of your true self, and then probably, like me, which is what happened to me through the dark night of the soul, probably find yourself back in the world teaching from that experience, which is what I do, or what I try to do. It's incredibly difficult to teach from the concepts. You have to have an experience, right? Jesus says in the Course, the experience is not only possible but necessary. Some see it during the lessons, like we'll have experiences during the lessons, and when we do our Zoom meetings, and the next one that we do, which will be this coming Monday, I'm going to be putting a mechanism into place in that meeting whereby we are all going to practice this meditative technique of pushing into the holy instant, right? Which is very similar to when Jesus talks about pushing through the clouds in lesson 16 or 23, whatever it is, which is a kind of creative visualization. But I want to take it to a group level and push that narrative a little bit harder, so that everyone can begin to experience the light in their mind. But the whole premise of the experience is the release of the inner light. Okay, so if you look at the idea of what the body originally represents, before you discover anything spiritual, before you read a Ramana Maharshi meme, and this is where you might want to turn me off and say, no, that can't be true, but the body is the symbol of denial. Okay, it's the symbol of the ego. And what that represents is the attempt to usurp the throne of God, the attempt to steal a part of creation and use it just for your own purposes, right? To have your own autonomy, your own experience of yourself in a world, which, is what you find yourself having when you get here, although within the framework of a limited sphere of experience where I think Jesus says in the Course, God set the limit on suffering. So, I mean, the end of the body is probably the limit. But then, of course, because you are eternal and a lesson repeats until it is learned, you find yourself popping up back here again in another one of these vessels to do it all again, picking up where you left off. And each time you come back, because you're now reincarnating, if you like, into, or re-emerging, respawning, that's what all the kids call it these days. You respawn, which is a gamer term. You respawn back into the game, or back into the illusion where you left off. Different body, perhaps different thing. I'm not exactly 100% on that. I have had a couple of past lives, simultaneous lives experiences, which I would call phenomena, vision, something, that have shown me that I have had, in fact, different bodies. I was once female and another time another male. But you have your healed mind, partially healed mind, wherever it is that you went off the game board. That's where you come back on. So, and you find yourself in your cot looking at your hands and feet, and you cry your eyes out. It's like, no, not again, And I've had people tell me that when they were a baby, they cried for hours because they realised they're back here in this thing doing this again, And I don't recall any baby thoughts, any baby memories from this incarnation, but I think I just appeared here in 1997 actually, but I don't really know. There's a lot of weird shit goes on in spiritual, metaphysics. So I think as soon as you decide that, sausage dogs, the sausage dogs in metaphysics, as soon as you decide you know something, really you're screwed. I mean, everything I know is that I don't know anything. And whilst it might seem that I can express my thoughts quite well about some things, and people tell me, thank God I found your videos and things like that and help me make sense of stuff, but the only thing that I'm expressing on these videos fundamentally is that I don't know anything, that I don't exist, and that this is all just an illusion and a dream, and therefore everything I'm telling you isn't real. It's all part of the illusion. And it can be a big head fuck, like it can really sit in your bucket there, in the brain bucket, and in the coconut, and bounce around, and you wish it would just stop, but it stops when you do the work. Right? Once you start to put it into practice, it stops. But I have found that, and this is just me, I mean other guys might have a different lien on it, but I have found that there is a constancy of necessity to declare yourself, as in, i.e. represent the truth and refuse to compromise that. And I've had a few examples of that. I won't go into it, but in the last few days, I've had people ask me to do things and to say things and to represent certain things that are obviously counter what I'm actually about. They're the opposite of what I'm actually about. They have a dualistic leaning. And of course, I put my finger on my nose. It's like, well, this is my mind presenting to me an idea of the duality of life, the yin-yang of life, and am I on board with that? And you have to be quite staunch, and you have to stand up and say, no, my Father's kingdom is singular. I'm here to represent that and that only, because if you compromise it out there, all that happens is you set up another cycle for that lesson, right, to come around again. So you become almost like a zealot. You become almost like, you know, and I know people that tell me, and from my own experience, it's like all your friends fall away. And you find that you end up hanging out with crazy people like me. More and more. Or you go to work and all the people that represent the old dream, you know, you just say nothing. All of a sudden you got nothing to say. And that's fine too. There is nothing wrong with being quiet, you know. And I remember the teaching of Lao Tzu, you know, the sage is quiet and keeps the jewel in his heart. Something like that. And the jewel, of course, is the truth, you know. So the truth is that I'm whole and perfect, and so are you. And my crown's just gone crazy. So I hope that's helpful. I do, like, parts of my videos. I mean, there's bloody 500 videos, I think, on my channel now. 365 of those are to do with the workbook, so you know, normal chit-chat ones like this are kind of like, there's a couple of hundred of those, but I know that in those videos I cross-reference a lot of stuff a lot of the time, and the reason for that is because you need to hear this again and again and again, because the world is so strong. And if you look at your life on a daily basis, how often in your life do you actually get a moment to turn everything off, shut the door and be still and do something that actually is designed to help nurture your soul or to heal your mind of the cycles of thinking and therefore manifesting behavior that continually brings you upset and pain and suffering and all of that sort of stuff. Most people that I talk to wake up in the morning and it's go, 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 off to work and got to get this done, got to get that done, and be about whatever that business is, and they get home and they're exhausted. You know, they just want to shut everything off then and put on the idiot box and watch something that allows them just to go into the astral state where they just sort of beep, their minds become like the test pattern. And I understand that. I absolutely understand that. But wouldn't it be nice to wake up in the morning and just be like, yes, yes, another day in the dream, another day in the virtual reality, another day in the whatever you want to call this, the game, where you get another opportunity to confront your own denial, which shows up as whatever it shows up as. I mean, number one, I'm still here. Still seem to be here. And bring about greater emphasis and effort in your learning and in your processing, so that you can begin to push authentically into having experiences, right? And when I say push, I mean consciously push, and you have to allow yourself in meditation and prayer to push into the heart space more, you know, like really, really bring the heart and the mind together and to feel things and to be authentic. When I say authentic, to feel things and to helicopter, to get in touch with where you're really at and how you really feel about things, rather than just continually being in this kind of mindset of, I'm okay, I'll be fine, I'll get through it, you know, and all of that. It's like bullshit. You know, that's such a lot of rubbish. Who are you trying to convince? You wouldn't need to say that if it weren't true. Anyway, that's about it. I just wanted to make that. I hope that's clear. If it's clear, please leave a comment. If it's and please subscribe. Tina always asks me to ask you guys subscribe and like and whatever the things that you do, and share these videos because ideas are increased by sharing. Big thanks to everybody who contributed to the Africa donation drive that we had. They now have their books. Andre went and picked them up yesterday or the day before yesterday, and Tina sent me some photographs from Andre at the printers, looking very dapper in the blue suit there, my brother. And I've posted those on my Facebook wall. So our next little adventure is to Dave in Vietnam, is to get the little 20-minute book translated into Vietnamese so he can have it printed over there, so that in Vietnam they can have A Course in Miracles over there, or at least, at the very least, the introduction, which is the little book that we have that we give out for free. If you would like any of those little books for free, just see the link down below. If you ask for one, we will send you 2 or maybe 3, because I know that once you start reading it, you'll want to talk to other people about it, etc., and you might even have friends that are interested in the same sort of material. So please give them out. There is an urgency to salvation. There is this kind of, I mean, look at the state of the world. You've only got to turn on the television and you can see. Once you start to see with healed perception, you can then look at the narrative of the world without being concerned about it, but it doesn't, you know, still maintaining perfect peace, which is how Jesus saw it. You know, I see what you believe in. It's not what I believe in, but I see what you believe in, and I see how you get yourselves in trouble believing in it that way. But it doesn't upset him. You know, I'm here to do a job, and that's it. I'll do my job and then I'll go. And I'm the same, and every other teacher of God is exactly the same. So there is an urgency to share these ideas of forgiveness, love through forgiveness, true forgiveness, divine forgiveness, not worldly forgiveness. All right, that's about it. Any questions or comments down below? That's great. I do read them all for the next few days. When this video drops, I will go back on this video and check for comments and things. I cannot emphasize enough how helpful it is to come to the Zoom meetings. I have a lot of people go, oh yeah, I really want to come to your Zoom meetings, and they never show up. It's just rhetoric. I want to. Yeah, well, the whole world is made on I want. You know, but when is it that I do? You know, when is it that you say yes and actually mean what you say? You know, so that's what you're always looking at in your transformative process anyway. You know, that's the whole thing. When is it that I say yes to God and actually mean it, rather than yes, God, but let me just go and do this first. We're a funny lot. We're offered everything. We're offered, man, if you knew, I mean, some of you guys do. Some of you guys have had the same experience I've had, that like direct union with God and you know, light experiences, and you realize how incredible it is. And you realize, because of how incredible that is, how nothing the world is. You know, Jesus talks about the world as a poor excuse, as a home for a child of God, and it really is. Like the kingdom, the creation is just, you don't want anything else. You know, you don't want it. When I found myself back in eternity, I did not want to come back here. It's like I don't belong here. That's why I don't feel like I fit in. That's why I always feel like something's wrong. Why I feel empty inside. That emptiness is my calling. That emptiness, that feeling, that little, you know, it's in there, the splinter in the mind's eye. That's what's calling me home. You've got to listen to that and feel it, even though it's going to be awful when it reaches the threshold. Like it rises up in you like this horrific kind of existential anxiety. But nobody gets out of that. You know, you don't get out of that. You have to face it. bit by bit, you know, like one healing moment by one healing moment, and you sort of chip away at it, or you do it all at once like I did in the Dark Night of the Soul, which I don't recommend. But then having not done it the other way, chipping away at it, I don't really know whether I would recommend it, you know, like maybe it's easier just to do it all once and get it out of the way. I've really got no idea. I guess it's the same thing if I looked at it honestly. All right, I love you guys, and thank you to everybody who's expressing their love and gratitude, and make sure you express your love and gratitude for everybody, because everyone is your beloved brother, and they are playing a part for you, and they don't remember agreeing to play that part for you, whether they are your attacker or your benefactor or whatever it is. You know, we actually all love each other unconditionally. Just playing these ridiculous parts in this ridiculous world. It's like Jesus says in the Course, you know, like delay in time can be tragic or is tragic. And the other thing that I read recently, you know, that really hit me in the craw was anything in the world that you think that you want can and will hurt you. Think about that. Next time you think, oh, I want that, just beware. It comes with a disclaimer. This will hurt you. Better to receive only the gifts of the Spirit and to be happy with that, and to let go, to forgive yourself of thinking there's anything else here that you might want. Can and will hurt you. Thanks, Jesus. Making that clear. All right, I love you guys, and see you in the Zoom this coming Monday. Tina will put the link down below, and peace.